Nearly went in. One of the first jobs I had was I got a call from the Japanese that they didn't know what to do. The police were complaining there were cows on the road because it was adjusted out. So I had to get out in the middle of the night and round up a few cows. But it's amazing how far the place has come since then.
There was a time, not that long ago, around the late 1970s, that nobody held out much hope that Hope Island would ever amount to anything. An unsympathetic media had dubbed it Hopeless Island or Sleepy Hollow. It's not that Hope Island had been totally ignored. It was useful for many things, but a good life with modern amenities was not on the list. The early roads were grassy lanes which dodged around the tree stumps, and you couldn't get to the island unless you had a boat or were prepared to get more than your feet wet. In 1933, the locals lobbied the council for a bridge, or at least a punt, to connect the island with the western mainland. The council couldn't justify the expense, so the locals had to use their own boats or cross the Coomera River at the shallows at the end of Ford Road, where the Coomera Marine Precinct is today. The cattle for the 6 dairy farms which dominated Hope Island were trucked to the Coomera station by steam train and then walked to Hope Island, crossing the river at this point. At very low tide, a horse and buggy could be driven across. The long-suffering farmers would not get their bridge for another 20 years, just after 1950. The one famous person who never lived at Hope Island was the man after whom the island was named, Captain the Honourable Louis Hope, a Coldstream Guardsman and colonial aristocrat who turned up in Moreton Bay in 1848. He is regarded as the father of the Australian sugarcane industry, with a big plantation near Cleveland. In 1867, a grateful government gave him 1,800 acres at the mouth of the Coomera River as a little thank you. He established a sugar plantation named Rockholm on his island, and also grew arrowroot and chicory. A sizable mill on Hope Island processed the crops. Probably the first land developer on Hope Island was Queensland Farms Proprietary Limited, a dairy conglomerate which saw what was happening down the road in Surfers Paradise, and in 1955 carved up 750 acres to create what they called a new township. History doesn't record what happened to this venture. Then along came the legendary Mike Gore, car salesman and tagged by the media as the founder of the infamous Gold Coast White Shoe Brigade, an unfair tilt at his flamboyancy with money. But it could be argued that without an unstoppable Mike Gore, Hope Island might still be a backwater farming community today. $92 million later, and Sanctuary Cove was born. A few years later, around 1987, an obsession with golf had encouraged some cashed-up Japanese developers to explore the Gold Coast for golfing sites. They figured it was cheaper to build the courses in Australia and fly the golfers in than pay the outrageous prices for a game of golf in Japan. The Shinko Company was introduced to 2 amalgamated dairy farms on Hope Island, and by 1992, with more than $100 million spent and the golf course and clubhouse built, the real estate sales got into full swing. Hope Island today still thrives because of people prepared to take risks in a market which defies accurate reading, not helped by the globalization of finance and its failures. It has achieved its critical mass of people who love the place and will never leave. Perhaps because it is an island and acts like one, the locals are fiercely protective of their special status.
If you talk to people that are living here and you ask them why they're here and what they like about the place, they say, well, look, we come from all over the world, and the one thing we are looking for is a beautiful lifestyle, but one of the big problems is that people leave all their social infrastructure at home. They leave their friends, their neighbors, their business contacts, family, grandchildren. And the new life is fantastic in most places, but they don't have the friends. there's a natural reaching out in this community where people embrace each other when they meet them on the street. They say, welcome to our world, because this is a, you know, and people say that they actually meet and enjoy more friendships in a shorter period of time here than they have in their life anywhere else in the world.
The people are great. In fact, it takes a long time to do anything here because you walk down to the shops and you think, oh, I'll just go for 5 minutes, and you run into this person and that person, and then, you know, 1 hour's gone. But you go down there to one of the cafes. It's like going down to the local pub. You catch up with people and say hello to all your neighbours, and without having to actually make, you know, any effort, you just go down and enjoy yourself. It's like one big party, my husband would say.
You've got everything strategically placed and you have a lifestyle around you. It's like living in a resort lifestyle, but you've got still be part of the major city if you want it.
We've been living here in Hope Island for about 5 years now. We lived in Brisbane for 20 years, but always had the plan that as soon as the girls had finished school in Brisbane that we would relocate to the coast. And had a look there and then found Hope Island and absolutely loved it, fell in love and built a home here.
We have a group of 30 or 35 people that we do things with every weekend, whether it be go to a bar or have a party, and the best thing about that is that everybody's 21 to 35 and already lives in the resort, so nobody has to travel too far.
Some people over the years have calling it a hidden gem. It's all about lifestyle.
You'll hear people say many times here that they're never going to leave Hope Island Resort. Several years ago I did an audio-visual similar to this, and one of the classic testimonials that one of our owners did was when he was asked about his capital growth that he'd had in his property. He said, look, we've had, you know, really good capital growth. He says, but I'm never going to sell. They're going to have to take me out of here in a box.
In fact, in the 4 years up to mid-2009, more than 1,300 properties had sold for more than $1.2 billion. The biggest sales record of any Gold Coast precinct. Despite the economic downturn, there's an air of confidence about Hope Island. The Stillwater Marine Apartments, arguably the best positioned development in the whole Hope Island Resort complex, has taken a bold step to create super units of up to 5 bedrooms. They've done it by breaking down walls between 2 and 3 bedroom units, tearing up outdated fittings, bringing in a superior design team, and delivering a product which is highly sought after by those used to playing host to extended families.
People from Hope Island were really looking for added space, moving from a home to a smaller apartment. So we decided to take the 2 apartments and open them up and create a really fantastic super apartment with the extra living space and the extra bedrooms, and really make a highly finished, highly polished space which really met the brief of bringing in the views and the light and just creating a really livable area. I definitely believe the wow factor's there. I think as soon as you walk in the door and you can sense almost the quality of the finishes, and then you come through and you just look out onto this amazing view, and it's just, yeah, it's definitely there, definite wow factor. We actually took what was a small study and converted it into what is rather a massive laundry. I know it's a bigger laundry than most people would have in their homes. It's a very functional space, and it's got all the storage you could ever want. And I mean, I know I've been told it's one of the selling factors.